Picture this. It's 1985 Britain, and somewhere in London, a grown man is getting paid by the government to count birds, not study them, not research them, just count them. 6 ravens, specifically, because if those birds leave, apparently Britain falls. Think that sounds made up? It gets better. While he's counting birds, another government employee is having a door slammed in his face, on purpose. Once a year, that's literally his most famous job duty. And across town, someone's maintaining a TV image of a little girl with a creepy clown doll, the same image, for 70,000 hours. We found 23 British jobs from the 80s that sound completely made up, but they're 100% real. And number 11 is so ridiculous, it'll make you question everything you know about employment. Number 23. Rag and Bone Man. Let's start with one you might have heard of. The Rag and Bone Man. Imagine waking up in 1985 Birmingham to hear someone shouting "rag and bone" outside your window. This isn't a historical reenactment. This is Tuesday. These guys travelled neighbourhoods with horse-drawn carts. Yes, horses in the 1980s, collecting scrap metal and old fabric. They'd sharpen your knives, give you a few pence for that broken toaster. Think about that for a second. While Wall Street was creating derivatives, British people were making livings shouting at houses from horse carts. Many were third-generation collectors. Their fathers did it. Their grandfathers did it. Inherited roots passed down like family businesses. The BBC made a whole sitcom about them, Steptoe and Son, because nothing says modern employment like a job that hadn't changed since Victorian times. Number 22, bank messenger. Now here's where it gets properly mental. Before electronic banking, and remember, we're talking the 1980s here, not the 1880s, every single bank transaction needed physical paper movement. Enter the bank messenger. These employees literally ran around London with briefcases full of cheques, bonds and financial documents worth thousands of pounds, on public transport, through city streets, like they're in some spy thriller, except it wasn't thrilling. It was Tuesday. Every cheque needed physical delivery. Every bond transfer meant someone boarding the tube with a locked briefcase. These guys were walking ATMs before ATMs existed. Electronic banking killed the job by decade's end. But imagine explaining to someone today that your job was running around with valuable papers. They'd think you were having them on. Number 21. Grand Carver of England. This one's so absurd, I need you to sit down for it. The Grand Carver of England. That's a real job title in the 1980s, not the 1380s. The Earl of Denbigh held this hereditary position. His duty: carving meat at state banquets. That's it. That's the job. While Thatcher was privatising industries and modernising Britain's economy, someone had an official government position for slicing roast beef. Scotland had their own master carver, because apparently Scottish meat needed different qualifications. Ask yourself, how do you even interview for that? Show us your knife skills, Lord Denbigh. Really get in there with that lamb shank. But wait until you hear about the people whose entire career revolved around sitting in beer. No, really. That was the actual job requirement. Number 20. Brass tallyman. Before we get to the beer sitters, let me tell you about the brass tallyman. London's docks in the 80s didn't use ID cards or computer systems. They used small brass tokens, like a Victorian coat check for humans. The brass tallyman managed these tokens. Workers showed up, got a brass oval, and that was their work assignment. No tally, no work. Lost your tally, no pay. This system survived into the 1980s. While Japan was building robots, British docks were tracking workers with brass coins. The entire employment system of thousands of workers depended on not losing a small piece of metal. Containerization killed London's docks. But for a brief moment, The future and the past collided in the form of tiny brass tokens. Number 19. Radio cart machine operator. Here's a job title that sounds fake. Cart machine operator. No, they didn't manage shopping trolleys. Radio stations used cart machines. Endless loop tape cartridges for commercials and jingles. One operator managed 50+ machines during live broadcasts. Picture this, you're on air. You need to play 15 different commercials, 8 jingles and station IDs, all on separate physical cartridges, all cued manually. Miss one? Dead air, the nightmare of every broadcaster. These operators were human automation. They made top 40 radio possible. Every coming up next had someone frantically loading cartridges behind it. Digital killed the position by the 90s. But cart machine operator remains possibly the most misleading job title ever created. However, these retail positions were nothing compared to what was happening underground. There were children, actual children, working at 3 a.m. in jobs that'll make you question everything about the good old days. Number 18. Department store floor walker. Imagine walking into a shop and seeing a man in full morning dress. We're talking tailcoats, patrolling the aisles like retail royalty. That's a floor walker. These weren't security guards. They were elegantly dressed supervisors who knew every product, handled complaints, and maintained order through sheer Victorian authority. Stores like Gamages employed entire teams of them, walking, watching, judging your shopping choices in formal wear. Bourne and Hollingsworth closed in 1983, taking their floor walkers with them. Because nothing says modern retail like men in tailcoats supervising your sock purchases. Number 17. Milk boy. This'll make you uncomfortable, and it should. Milk boys? Children aged 12 to 16, working 6 days a week, starting at 3 a.m., not 3 p.m. 3 a.m. These kids ran between houses, carrying 20 bottle crates while the milkman drove slowly behind. In winter darkness, in freezing rain. Before school, they earned £20 weekly. Decent money for a child in 1985. Parents called it character building. Today, we'd call it something else entirely. Think about that. While America panicked about violent video games corrupting youth, Britain had 12-year-olds legally working night shifts. The job lasted until supermarkets killed milk delivery. But for thousands of British kids, their first job meant waking up when everyone else was asleep. Number 16, telex operator before email. Before fax, there was telex, and it required specialists to operate it. Telex operators typed messages that printed simultaneously across the world, revolutionary technology that required knowing international routing codes, Murray code, and wild telex addressing. British Telecom employed 200+ operators at fleet building alone. These weren't low-skill positions. You needed to read punched tape, touch type perfectly, and understand complex routing systems. The service ran until 2008. Let that sink in. 2008. While people were using iPhones, someone, somewhere, was still operating a telex machine. What do you do for work? I operate the telex. The what? Exactly. Number 15. Public convenience attendant. Some people spent entire careers in toilets, literally. Public convenience attendants didn't just clean toilets, they lived beside them in purpose-built flats attached to underground Victorian lavatories. They collected fees, 2 to 6 pence per use, sold toilet paper, maintained order. Some worked the same toilet for 30 years. Victoria Hughes got an MBE for toilet attendance. The Queen honoured her toilet work. She wrote memoirs about it. Westminster Council closed 30 attended conveniences in the 80s because nothing says budget cuts like firing professional toilet guardians. Imagine that career day presentation. I've spent 30 years underground and the Queen noticed. Number 14. Encyclopedia salesman. Picture this. A stranger knocks on your door, in a suit, carrying heavy books. He wants to guilt you into spending £1,000 in today's money on encyclopedias. And it worked. Encyclopedia salesmen were psychological warfare specialists. They'd leave demonstration sets to make rejection harder. They'd talk about your children's futures, their education, their potential. Don't you want little Tommy to succeed? Don't you want knowledge at his fingertips? Meanwhile, little Tommy just wanted a BMX bike. Britannica stopped door-to-door sales in the late 80s. Wikipedia murdered what remained. But imagine someone trying this today. I'd like to sell you these 30 books for £3,000. I have Google, but Google. And speaking of obsolete technology, wait until you hear about the person whose entire job was maintaining one image on TV. The same image for decades. And that image? It's weirder than you think. Number 13 on Setter. First, let's go underground again, to the coal mines. The on-setter worked at the pit bottom, loading and unloading the cage that carried miners up and down shafts. Sounds simple, right? Wrong. They coordinated split-second timing between surface operations and underground chaos. One mistake, cages crash, miners die, coal tubs destroy everything, working 8 to 10-hour shifts in complete darkness. Cave-in risks constantly above your head. Death one miscalculation away. The title on-setter sounds made up, like something from Lord of the Rings. But these guys kept Britain's mines running until Thatcher shut them down. What do you do? I'm an on-setter. Is that even English? Number 12. Royal Horological Conservator. Here's the most pompous job title ever created. Royal Horological Conservator. Translation: clock winder. Buckingham Palace employed someone to wind over 1,000 clocks daily. Every single day. The Queen preferred mechanical clocks to digital ones. So one person's entire career involved walking through palaces, winding clocks. Miss one? Royal breakfast gets served late. International incident. They earned £15,000 to £20,000 in 1980s money for winding clocks. Horological conservator sounds like something from a bureaucratic satire, but without them, hundreds of palace clocks would just stop. Imagine that job interview. Do you have experience with timepieces? You mean clocks? We prefer horological instruments. Number 11. Knocker-upper. This is it. The job that breaks brains. The knocker-upper. Professional human alarm clocks who woke factory workers by tapping their bedroom windows with long poles or shooting dried peas at the glass. At 4 a.m. They charged 3 to 6 pence weekly, memorized entire neighborhoods' wake-up times. Some used bamboo poles. Others had pea shooters. But here's where it gets insane. Who woke up the knocker-uppers? Knocker-uppers. That's who. People whose job was waking up. The people whose job was waking up other people. This isn't medieval history. This is the 1980s. While Japan invented the Walkman, Britain had people shooting peas at windows. The last professional knocker-upper worked into the early 80s. Alarm clocks existed. They just didn't trust them. But the knocker-upper isn't even the strangest one. The government literally paid someone to test beer by sitting in it. And that's not even the weird part. Number 10. In-vision continuity announcer. TV had people whose only job was sitting alone in tiny studios, waiting to say, coming up next on BBC Two. That's it. That's the career. In-vision continuity announcers became celebrities for announcing what was on next. They'd sit there alone, waiting for programs to end. Then boom, they'd appear. That was the news. Now here's Doctor Who. Fame. Fortune. Well, not fortune, but definitely fame. During Northern Ireland's troubles, Ulster television announcers read emergency police messages live from fax machines. 1 second, you're announcing a gardening show. Next, you're reading about terrorist threats. ITV dropped them in the 80s to save money. because nothing says cost cutting like firing people who tell you what's on next. Number 9, linotype operator. Newspapers were made of metal, actual metal. In the 1980s, linotype operators poured molten lead at 550 degrees Fahrenheit into molds to create text, every letter, every word, every article made from molten metal. The phrase, "mind your P's and Q's," it comes from distinguishing reversed metal letters. Get it wrong? Entire page ruined. These machines were 6 feet tall, weighed tons, and could kill you if operated incorrectly. One squirt of molten lead, third-degree burns. Or worse. Desktop publishing killed the job. But imagine telling someone today, "I make words from molten metal." They'd think you were describing medieval torture, not 1980s journalism. Number 8. Deputy overman. In the mines, the deputy overman checked for deadly gases before each shift. Methane, carbon monoxide. After damp, the toxic mix that killed you after explosions. They went down first, alone, with safety lamps, sometimes canaries. If the canary died, you ran. The title sounds like comic book villainy. Beware the deputy overman. But these guys prevented explosions that regularly killed hundreds. Well paid because, constant mortal danger. Most vanished when Thatcher closed the pits. Think about that job posting. Wanted, deputy overman. Must be comfortable with potentially dying every morning. Canary experience preferred. Number 7. Mudlark professional. Scavengers in the Thames in the 1980s. Mudlarks searched river mud at low tide for valuables, coal, metal, bones for glue making, sometimes historical artifacts, sometimes just rubbish. They worked in groups, knew the tides, had regular routes, sold findings to marine stores for subsistence wages. This is 1980s London, the financial capital of Europe. And people were professionally scavenging in mud. Police still prosecuted unauthorised mudlarking, because apparently river mud was serious business. While bankers traded millions overhead, mudlarks scraped Thames bottom for pennies. The contrast is almost poetic. Almost. Now here's where technology meets absurdity. Imagine someone whose entire career involved holes, specifically punching them, in paper for computers, and one dropped stack could destroy everything. Number 6. Punch card operator. Every piece of computer data required manual entry via punch cards. 80 columns, precise holes. One mistake, program crashes. Punch card operators used IBM 029 machines to punch thousands daily, the 80-character limit in modern coding. That's because of these physical cards. But here's the nightmare scenario. You've punched 5,000 cards, weeks of work. You're carrying them to the computer room. You trip, cards everywhere, order destroyed. Weeks of work scattered across the floor like the world's worst confetti. IBM sold key punch machines until 1984. So while Apple was launching Macintosh, British workers were literally punching holes in paper for computers. What's your job? I punch holes. In what? Paper. For what? Computers. What? Number 5. Computer tape librarian. Before hard drives, computers stored data on magnetic tape reels, thousands of them, and they needed librarians. Computer tape librarians catalogued, retrieved, and maintained these libraries. They knew which of 10,000 identical-looking reels contained payroll, which had inventory, which had that thing Dave from accounting needed. One wrong tape, business grinds to halt. Grab last month's backup instead of last night's. Disaster. They earned $49,000 in today's money for organizing computer tapes, like books. But more boring, the job title sounds like satire. I'm a computer tape librarian. But without them, early computing would have collapsed into magnetic chaos. Number 4. Gentleman Usher of the Black Rod. Parliament employs someone to have a door slammed in their face. Annually, ceremonially, on purpose. The gentleman Usher of the Black Rod approaches the House of Commons during state opening. The door slams. He knocks 3 times with his black rod. Then they let him in. That's the job's most famous duty. A retired senior military officer, earning £25,000 to £30,000 in 1980s money, to have a door slammed in their face. They also manage House of Lords security. But nobody cares about that. It's all about the door slamming. Black rod sounds like medieval weaponry or something deeply inappropriate. Not a legitimate parliamentary position that still exists today. Number 3. Test card maintenance operator. This is peak absurdity. The BBC employed technicians to maintain test card F, that static image of 8-year-old Carol Hersey playing noughts and crosses with Bubbles the clown. One image, the same image. For 70,000 hours between 1967 and 1998, these operators ensured proper colour calibration, signal strength, image quality. For a picture of a girl and a creepy clown doll, it's the most viewed image in television history. And someone's job was making sure the clown looked right. 24-hour broadcasting killed the position, but imagine that career. I maintain the clown girl image. Which one? There's only one. For how long? 30 years. But even that's not the strangest. The government's most bizarre positions were based on medieval superstitions that somehow survived into the Thatcher era. Number 2. Ale Connor. 4 people annually appointed to test beer quality in the City of London. Their method? Legend says they wore leather breeches and sat in puddles of beer. If they stuck to the bench, the ale passed. Let that sink in. The government allegedly tested beer by having officials sit in it. Now, that's mostly myth. But 1980s, Ale Connors did inspect pub measures to prevent fraud, chosen by liverymen in Common Hall on Midsummer Day. Because nothing says modern democracy like medieval beer inspectors chosen on the summer solstice. The job title alone, Ale Connor, sounds like something from a Monty Python sketch that went too far. What do? I con ale? You con ale? No, I con it. What does that mean? Nobody knows anymore. Number 1. Raven Master. And here it is, the most insane government job in 1980s. Britain. The Raven Master of the Tower of London. One person, paid by the government to care for 6 ravens. Why? Because legend says Britain will fall if the ravens leave the tower. Think about that for a second. The British government, in the 1980s, while fighting the Falklands War, while dealing with the IRA, while modernising the entire economy, paid someone to babysit birds. To prevent the kingdom from falling, the Raven Master feeds them 170 grams of raw meat daily, trims their flight feathers so they can't leave, maintains detailed health records for each bird. This isn't ceremonial. This is deadly serious. The ravens have names. They have personalities. They have a government employee whose entire career is keeping them happy. The position still exists today, right now. As you're watching this, someone is being paid to prevent national catastrophe through bird care. What's your job? I prevent Britain from falling. How? I feed birds. What? So, there you have it. 23 jobs that actually existed in 1980s Britain. From the knocker-upper's knocker-upper to the man who counts ravens to save the nation. From children working at 3 a.m. to grown adults managing brass tokens. These weren't museum demonstrations. These were real careers, real paychecks, real people who went home and told their families about their day maintaining the clown girl image. The 1980s were the last gasp of ancient traditions meeting obsolete technology. While Silicon Valley invented the future, Britain had people shooting peas at windows and sitting in beer. Which of these jobs shocked you most? Could you imagine doing any of them? Drop a comment below, unless you're too busy winding palace clocks. And if you enjoyed this dive into employment insanity, you'll love our most recent video on 15 British TV shows we miss from 80s Britain. Be sure to check it out.